How you doing, all you beautiful sons of bitches? It's your boy Bax here, and today, me and Evan, we are getting very fucking fantastical on this week's Backseat Boys, aren't we, Evan? What are we talking about?
Rings of Power.
Yes, that piece of shit show, and today we're adding a new motherfucker to the Backseat Boys Villains Gallery. It's fucking Bob of the Old Ways. Yes, apparently there's two Bobs in the fandom initiative, and apparently Movie Cynic's review of Rings of Power gave him a headache. Oh, boo-hoo. So anyway, Evan, opening statement right here before we actually begin. What are your thoughts on ROP so far?
Well, Rings of Power is a very interesting case for me because, for starters, I'll be completely honest. I wasn't that big of a fan of the Lord of the Rings movies when they first came out. Like, I've met Sean Unstein, I've met a bunch of other people from the movies and from The Hobbit as well. But I kind of watched them not out of my own liking. It was just one of those movies they play during school, like when it's around the end of the year and they
What the
have
fuck
nothing
are
to
you
do.
doing
So
watching fucking Lord of the Rings in school, Evan? What the hell?
it was one of the movies they had on standby.
Okay, like, well, damn, I wish I went to that school. What the fuck? Anyway, continue.
But so when Amazon announced they had this Rings of Power show in development, I didn't really think too much about it. I figured just, oh well, just another IP that they're gonna milk to death, as opposed to making original shows from original minds. But of course, we know all the stuff coming out about the show, about the casting and how the second season has like exclusively female directors and no guys involved. Like, it's one of those weird things that the more you hear about Amazon deliberately doing stuff like this, the more it gets you to realize, okay, how did the show even get a second season? How's
Yes.
it trying to cross that finish line into doing 5 whole seasons altogether? Because allegedly they have every frame of the show planned out from the first frame to the very last frame of season 5, even though we're on fucking 2 or 3 or whatever.
I think we're approaching 3. Yeah. Yeah, yeah, it's like this is literally just like basically like just some this is just like a fucking money-making scheme for fucking Bezos, because it's like he can't quit. It's also like sunk cost fallacy because he can't fucking quit now. He's too deep in the game, and it's like they have to make their fucking money somehow. And if they have to burn more money to make a few less money, then fuck it, they'll do it. But yeah, but before we actually begin, we also have a special guest joining in spirit. Shit, I stepped on one of my dog's toys. We have a special guest joining in spirit for this video because I recently reached out to Solar, and he basically provided me with notes for this because he doesn't do all that well speaking live on camera. So thank you so
Okay.
much. Solar, for the notes. We'll put them to use. So without further ado, let's get started in it right now. Evan, play away.
Movie Cynic's Cringe Rings of Power review gives me a headache. How big of a headache? We're about to find
Time to
out.
find out, yeah.
Hey, well met, travelers. My name's Bob of the Old Ways. Thanks for stopping by my channel. If you're new here, I really appreciate it. If you're not new here, welcome back.
Is it me or does this guy look like fucking Chef from Echo Base Network? Like, I mean, come on,
I don't
like,
know.
he looks like a younger, like, Chef from Echo Base Network. We found Chef Junior here, guys.
Kind of looks like a sock puppet with his nose cut off.
Oh my god.
Today, I know I kind of want to move beyond Rings of Power content, but
Why are you making a video about it
Why are you
then?
making a video on it then? Yeah.
my Christmas plans got canceled, so I'm bored and
Oh,
I've
that's
decided I'll
why
do.
he needs something better to do, and he probably needs the money, like the income from this video. That's probably why.
Gotta buy those extra Christmas presents.
Yeah.
Something I
Anyway.
wasn't really planning on doing, and that's reacting to yet another person on YouTube complaining about the Rings of Power. I've had this content creator recommended to me by a couple of channel subscribers, some of whom are not sympathetic to him, and others who think he presents some kind of unbeatable challenge to me. And that's why I wanted to ignore it.
Shit.
So it's like so Bob here is going like full on like, oh, challenge accepted, bitch. Let's do this. All right then.
I mean, I respect the mentality, but is it gonna work out well for him?
I don't think it's going to. No.
Because I'm really familiar with this kind of chud content, this kind of pack-led.
There it is, chud content. Also, hi John.
Hola.
Welcome. Glad you can join us.
We didn't get very far into it. You didn't miss much, other than that this motherfucker calls people chuds.
Oh no.
He also had his holiday plans canceled, so he's gonna spend all this extra time watching Rings of Power content.
Yeah, the best way to waste the holidays away.
Was his holiday going to be like getting whipped and flogged, and he just wanted to replace it with a similar feeling?
Maybe, I don't know. And speaking of,
I need something just as torturous.
Speaking of, John, you've actually seen Rings of Power. What are your thoughts on it?
Peak fire, bro. 7 out of 10. Pow, pow, pow.
John is a fake Tolkien fan. You heard it here, folks.
Yeah, well, you know, Tolkien, look, I love Lord of the Rings, but it is highly problematic. The diversity in the elves was a major. I was practically crying in the theater when I saw Return of the King, not because of the great endings, but because of the lack of diversity in Gondor.
Arondir made me feel seen, and now all black fans could see themselves in the elves now.
And they made the southern people all evil, and I just thought, oh my gosh, they're clearly supposed to be Mexicans.
Oh no.
Why is Tolkien so racist? No, it's a travesty. It's a crock of shit. It can't even, like, you would think with $1 billion you could at least, like, even if you had the dumbest possible writing, like, people always compliment or like, oh, the sets look good or the effects are good and stuff, which I actually think the sets are pretty lazy in that in some instances. But it's like, oh well, yeah, they had $700 million over 2 seasons. Of course, that looks like this show had what, $1 billion allocated for the 5 seasons or something, but it's like hundreds of millions per season basically. And it looks like such shit. And the battles look so cheap. They look like CW, where it's like, I mean, everybody knows the writing.
Oh, no.
Like, why does a ship float and a rock sink? Well, because it looks up to the sky and dreams of floating or something.
There is a tempest in me.
Yeah. But like,
it's
even
crazy to think that we throw around CW as like an insult now, mainly because CW was very, very left wing at the time, but now it's pretty a base channel. Like, it's got a new owner and all.
CW's base?
I didn't know it's still around.
The devil, you say, Evan?
No, seriously, if you go on the CW now, they show like all of these commercials for like military families, like veteran-owned businesses. Thank you for serving your country, pro-America stuff going on. Like it's almost like night and day.
Did it get like revived? I thought it shut down because it never made money.
No, it got a new parent company.
Oh, okay, so they kind of like
someone else.
Oh, okay, so they were gonna shut it down.
America, fuck yeah.
Yeah, okay, so it got bought out by a chud, as this guy would say.
Yeah,
exactly. Also, according to Backseater, this guy looks like what was it, chef?
Coach, but we call him chef. Yeah, like John, you see that, right? It's like you can totally see this guy saying, "I really liked Baby Dumba," like, right? Like, that's totally this guy.
I've said it a million times. I only have it so I can watch Michael Mermaids.
Oh my
okay. He actually looks like a guy that used to be in a do you know the Schmodown Backseater? The Christian Harloff led.
I've never watched Schmodown, but I know of it. Yeah. Yes.
Well, it went out of business because it was shitty, but so that one did shut down. Nobody bought that out. But that's where like I first ran into Roxy Stryer and Coy and all these people.
Oh,
You know,
yeah.
they were all the Hollywood insider bullshit artists. Was Christian Harloff organizing them all? Greg Alba, even of the Soy Boy, or no, that's Hector Navarro, the Soy Boys, but he was also on there. So yeah, it was a big
Sorry.
convalescence of all the most cringe people on the internet, basically.
It's the secret origin story of the shills. Yeah.
Pretty much. Which is really funny to go back to and see the Star Wars shit they get wrong in their Star Wars category. They're like, what was the droid in A New Hope? R5-3PO? No, I'm sure they didn't get something like that wrong. At least I don't think so, but look, I'm going to be real sexist here. Some of the women, they would lose like 6 matches in a row, and Christian Hart, it was movie trivia blended with like, they were supposed to be like wrestling blended, like trash talk kind of, and make characters out of themselves while they were doing movie trivia. So it's a pretty dumb concept, but Christian Harloff, even after,
Well, sounds pretty fun. That may
even
be,
it
it may
could
be the
be,
Western fan of me saying that, but
oh,
sounds
it could be if it had charismatic, like, you know, camera loving people, but these were the shills trying to act tough and stuff, and it didn't work in that perspective.
a show trying to act tough.
John Roca, that's where the outlaw came from. That was his character on it. He wore the cowboy hat all the time, and he was like, "Oh, I'm the outlaw son. I'm gonna take you down."
Yeah, when I think of outlaw, I think fucking John Roca.
The obese outlaw. He ate the horse. We can't go out of the desert now. He's the reason the buffalo went extinct. He ate them all.
Oh, no.
Actually, John, the buffalo are an endangered species, so they're not really extinct.
I'm sorry, almost went extinct. I killed them all in Red Dead Redemption. That was one of the trophies. Was destroy all the buffalo in the Great Plains.
Yeah.
Throwing dynamite at them.
Where are we gonna get our wings in?
Yeah. Anyway, we've dilly-dallied. Moving on.
Content, as I like to call it, and I would really like to move beyond it. But like I said, my Christmas night plans got canceled, and I'm bored.
Christmas night? Oh no!
Christmas,
Oh, no.
Christmas is canceled, man.
Alan Rickman in here. Need to throw that clip in there, backseater, for the video.
I don't edit shit, bro. Moving on.
Don't worry, I got you.
So we'll see what we can make of this. Now, the content creator is named The Movie Cynic, and already the channel
Pretty awesome.
Yeah,
I like the movie Cynic.
I've never watched him, so I have no opinion.
He's been on with EFAP and them a couple times, and I checked out some of his videos where he was like, you know, shitting on Captain African American and stuff. Yeah, he's a pretty cool guy. He doesn't have the blue hair. I don't think he's had that for a while, but he said he just doesn't want to, for branding, he doesn't want to change his image. So he's not like Destiny. He's the much more sane blue-haired critic on the internet.
Anyway.
That's a relief.
Kind of, this is the channel name is why I didn't want to respond to this guy at all, because
Oh no.
it's
You can't be cynical.
Namist.
Yeah.
basically pulling the mask off here. With a name like the movie Cynic, you know that everything he has to say is going to be taken or going to be made in bad faith. Right up
Oh no. Anyway.
Or maybe he just talks about bad movies.
It's in the branding. To be a cynic, you have to be someone who believes or pretends to believe that humans are only motivated by entirely selfish interests and that they do everything for selfish gain or for the promotion.
Wait a minute. Does he realize that he's like literally just being a hypocrite in the same sentence? He's like, you have to pretend, you have to take everything in the worst possible way and just think humans are doing things for the wrong, as he's talking about this human doing things for the wrong reason and being like, he's demonstrating. I don't know if he's doing it ironically, but he's literally being a cynic as he's talking about how bad cynics
are. I don't
are.
think he is. I legit think this man looks stupid and not realize the irony. Yeah.
Like, this guy's so dishonest. He thinks everybody's dishonest.
Anyway.
Motion of like a personal agenda or something like that, because that's what cynics do. And cynics think that everyone else in the world thinks and behaves the way that they do.
This guy is reading way too much into a fucking username.
Yes.
I'm fairly certain that's not even what cynic means. Cynic usually just means you're like pessimistic going into things. Like you're kind of cynical, like, oh, this is gonna suck. Like it doesn't mean that you are gonna deliberately lie about things after the fact. It's more of like
Not
an
to mention-
attitude.
Not to
Cynical,
mention, I-
cynical definition, adjective, believing that people are motivated purely by self-interest, distrustful of human sincerity or integrity. So he got the definition down, but now he's just expanding it to like something that it isn't necessarily.
Yeah, funny enough, just as you were reading that old definition, I think we see a clear portrait of a certain cynic, like right here in it itself.
Apparently the old ways are the cynical ways, yes.
Hey, there we go.
Their reasoning is I interact with the world this way, so everyone else must interact with the world the same way I do. It's a way of universalizing one's
Also,
personal experience.
if you're gonna have that title with the E on the end of old and everything, that's more of like a British thing. You should be British if you're gonna do that. I'm very
I was about to say,
disappointed.
He kind of sounds like Alan Rickman with his balls cut off.
Oh no.
Frankly, kind of narcissistic. So maybe he should call himself the movie narcissist.
Ooh, burn.
Ooh.
Oh,
Shit,
oh,
that
taking
sounded
a
really cool.
shot at movie cynic there.
Movie cynic just got in the.
Be that as it may, I have not watched this video yet, so maybe he will surprise me. But let's take a look at the movie Cynic's video, which is titled Rings of Power, the worst show on television. Here we go.
But
Not
you
an
guys-
unreasonable claim.
Exciting.
Yeah,
Sounds exciting.
there we go.
Now, I can't promise that I'm going to get through this entire video because, as I now see, it's over an hour long.
Well, it's an hour long, and he only made like a half-hour video,
Half-hour
so
video.
He played it
Well,
on
he's not
3
gonna get
times
very
speed.
far into it.
Yeah, anyway.
And I suspect I'm not going to have the patience to get through this.
Oh.
nonsense.
Oh no.
Because it's going to be
Long
nonsense. That's my
bad.
prediction. So, let's take a look at what the movie says.
Especially if it's like a TV show, I feel like a 1 hour
Rings of
review
Power,
is
the
very
second season.
justified.
Yeah.
Like you
Yeah.
have to get somewhat in depth if you're going to have any sort of substantive criticism. And if it's, I think Rings of Power was like 8 to 10 episodes or something. So that's like 8 to 10 hours of content that you're reviewing. A 1 to 8 ratio is not that bad whenever you're like trying to elaborate on thoughts and everything. But I know he just wants surface level. OMG, I got so hyped when Galadriel showed up.
Mm-hmm.
She's so badass.
She's
Anyways,
so
moving on to
badass. She
episode 2.
killed. She killed that one orc by hanging off the side of her horse. Oh my god.
Anyways, moving on to episode 2 now. That's
Yeah.
my criticism.
Yeah.
That's what he wants.
Yeah.
Where does one begin? After episode 3, I described it as trying to find the best angle to stare at a bucket of piss. Now that the season's over, I must say that's a foolproof way of putting it. This show's so fun to slap around, it's like mixing UFC and Mario Kart. I didn't know I needed it.
Ooh.
Oh, that's a good edit.
Right, as I predicted. Okay, we can tell from the snarky tone.
I knew he would have UFC and Mario Kart.
phrase, the
That's actually a really fun combo, I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
I was not expecting that. I don't know. I'm surprised that he was expecting that.
Just drive on your little Mario Karts, and as you get close, you start boom, 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 boom.
Yeah.
Kimbo
me
slice.
editing all of this. This is like Mauler adjacent. This is Critical Drinker adjacent. I am not
2 very popular critics, yes. Oh, it's such a struggle.
What did Shooter McGavin say could draw a golfer with his arm growing out of his ass? This show retains every single issue it had when the first season hit in 2022, and the newest argument for shithead shills is that it's not as bad as season 1. That's the argument.
No, that's not the argument. The argument is, first season was good, and
No.
the second season is
Are you sure about that?
Wait, I think he's hang on. I think he's arguing on, but I think he's saying like the fans of the show say. So season 1 was good. Evan, let him play
It's
it.
better. Now, of course, these are subjective measurements. I love the show. A lot of other people don't like the show. Some other people are mid on the show. But I've done content on my channel before debunking the claim that nobody watched the show and nobody liked it. The ratings for season 1 were pretty phenomenal.
Bruh.
It's not true.
John, take it away on this one.
Even if, look, first of all, it dropped off a lot throughout the course of season 1 to the point where I think they only had half their audience at the end of season 1 that had started the show.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Then,
yeah.
Season 2, it plummeted, and they still invested just as much money, and they put in some major marketing too. This shit was on Amazon packages, all the tape had Rings of Power, and they had the theatrical premiere for the first season, and then the second season, they were like, ain't nobody gonna watch that, and didn't even bother. I actually went to the theatrical premiere because I wanted to see it early, and there hadn't been any episodes yet, so I didn't know how shit it would be. It was a very boring theater experience. Luckily, I had lots of popcorn.
I'm looking up the viewing figures. Hang on here.
I believe it went down another. I believe it got halved again at a certain point in season 2. So they're basically down to I think a quarter at best of their original. And again, this is like Amazon's most advertised, most budgeted show, like highest budget show. Like, this is ridiculously pushed. Of course, it was going to get high initial viewership. It's also Lord of the Rings. They paid how much to even get the rights to... What did they even get the rights to? It was like some fraction of a fraction.
Yeah,
it was like they can't use the Silmarillion.
I don't think they got the Silmarillion. I think they got like notes and shit. I definitely know that they didn't get any novels. I know that for a fact.
I think it's the appendices that they got.
The appendices, that's what they got, yeah.
And they're not allowed to make it exactly like the Silmarillion because they didn't get the rights to that. So they actually have to intentionally either cover things that weren't covered in the Silmarillion, or at least not in enough detail that they can have some wiggle room around it, or they have to intentionally change it just to avoid doing copyright infringement.
Yeah.
So it's like, we have to intentionally break canon or we'll get sued. That's not a good start for a show. So I sympathize somewhat with the writers, but they could have done better than this.
No.
But I do know for a fact, and I think I read this today or yesterday, but Amazon canceled the Wheel of Time, and the excuse they gave was because of low viewership. But in actuality, is that a good portion of the money that they're using for Wheel of Time, they're going to use to continuously fund Rings of Power. Amazon has no problem canceling like other shows with a mildly high budget just to continue funding Rings of Power.
Oh my god, I'm telling, it's exactly as I said before you joined, John. This whole show is just fucking Jeff Bezos's money pit at this point.
Which Wheel of Time, I could have predicted that would never fucking work, because I've read the first 5 books of that series, and then I got diverted into Star Wars EU by purist. But it is incredibly it incredibly separates genders, like on a biological level and everything, or sexes basically, and like the men and women have very distinct roles, and the author constantly emphasizes the difference in their thinking and in their magic and in all these things. I'm like, well, Amazon ain't gonna let that happen. Like, I've never watched the show, but I know watching Discourse reviews, it's like, I'm pretty sure modern writers are not going to like that concept because they want to blur the lines everywhere there. So this is not going to work.
Writer of Wheel of Time, if I remember correctly, I can't remember if it was the original guy or the guy that carried on the rest of the series after the original writer died, but one of those two guys is Mormon. And of course, they have a very interesting way of thinking when it comes to the two genders.
Well, I'm sure it was probably Robert Jordan, he wrote the original, I think 9. I think there's 13 overall. And then Brandon Sanderson picked it up, and Brandon Sanderson's, he's still pretty active work. He pumps out fantasy novels like they're I don't know, weekly comic strips. So yeah, he's known for pump. He's like the in the anti George R. R. Martin. He just gets shit done all the time.
Yep.
He's like, my nemesis, we meet again. How dare you finish your books? Ah.
Anyway.
Yeah, but yeah,
So
Amazon's
yeah,
fucked up with fantasy. Yeah.
yeah, my point from earlier is that if Amazon is willing to cancel all the big budget shows just to keep funding Rings of Power, what else could they possibly cancel?
Well, and Wheel of Time was getting shit ratings too. Like, there's a reason Amazon was perfectly willing to. It needed a decent CGI budget because the enemies in that are like blends of different animals. It's stuff you have to do in CGI. So I'm sure that they were saving money. Going, all right, nobody watches this shit by season 2, so we may as well pump it into Lord of the Rings. And then they had some bigger stars, like the Rosamund Pike was the one prominent character in it. So I'm sure she got a decent paycheck they could cut out. Ain't nobody famous in Rings of
Power or
Power.
Wheel of Time?
That was Wheel of Time. I'm talking about like why they would cut Wheel of Time. So they probably saved a decent amount of their CGI guys and a decent, actor or actress or two as far as salary goes. So yeah, that probably got them a few tens of millions of dollars to throw into Rings of Power.
Anyway, moving
Wonder if
on.
it'll pan out for them.
House of the Dragon every week on streaming that they were up against each other except for one. And it experienced a massive surge in viewership at the end of season 1 after the final episode dropped, when a lot of people came in to binge the entire season from beginning to end, and that made it a top 4, I think it was a top 4 Nielsen show every week that it aired. And at the end of season 1, it was like, I think 49% higher, or it was 49 times more watched than the average show by I forget the metric I used, but my videos on my channel.
People binge things these days, fine. Like, that doesn't really prove that you were gaining an audience. That just means like people watch the initial episode and then we're like, well, this seems really slow and boring. I'm going to wait until it's all out.
Yeah.
A lot of people watched this show and a lot of people liked this show. So the argument is that season 1 was pretty good. It had some flaws. It had some pacing issues, but it was doing a lot of world building and setup. And
All right,
season
well, hold
2,
on.
No.
Hold on, right here, right. Okay, John, I mentioned this before you joined, but I actually reached out to a new guy on the server, and he's not too good with doing live stuff like this, but I did have him record some notes of stuff he wanted me to say. So right here, so right there, what he says at. So when Bob mentions that most of season 1 was more occupied with the world building and setup, which shouldn't be too time consuming had they read the Akalabeth section of the Silmarillion, which explains the context of the Second Age where the show takes place. Like in Peter Jackson's films, the movie starts by briefly explaining what the One Ring is about and how it was lost during the War of the Last Alliance of Men and Elves. In Rings of Power, they could have spent the first episode, or at least half of it, explaining what led to the Second Age, who is Morgoth, or how he fell after the War of Wrath, who is Sauron, or how Numenor was settled.
Yep, and they don't get into any of that in any sort of depth. That's the main problem. He's talking about specific things there, and instead, they get specific a little bit in the beginning. There's like an opening montage of the big war with the elves, but it's all metaphorical, floaty language that doesn't mean anything. And that's how they introduce everybody. Everybody speaks the same in that they're all like this poetic prose that they don't get into any like brass tacks. It's not like you have one guy who's real practical and to the point, and then another person has the poetic language like the elves. Nope, they're just all the fucking same. They're like, but what does a stone mean when it sinks the ship that it sits on, or whatever? It's
basically a bunch of Shakespeare kids speaking in Ice Cream Cohen.
And they just don't build anything. It's like, we know who the elves are because I guess of some of the like set design and stuff. They wear their, foresty robes and all that. But like, if you were to ask me what's the difference in attitude between an elf and this what's it called, Numenor, like Numenor has no distinct personality. Their entire personality is the sea is always right, and they just keep repeating that all the time. And there's nothing to build. It's certainly not 8 hours worth of episodes. It's not like, oh, we have to pour Rings of Power. They only had 8 hours. They could only fill in this much, and they did so much world building. They didn't establish anything. It was just a bunch of vague characters that went around in circles for 8 episodes.
How can a sea be right? It's a sea. It doesn't. It's just a body of water.
Oh, I don't know. Like, some dude's wife drowns, I'm pretty sure, and they're just like, oh, the sea is always right. So he's like, oh, I can't, it's my religion or whatever. I don't know. To be honest with you, season 1, that was so long ago and it's so unmemorable. I have an extremely hard time recalling specifics. I just remember Galadriel goes to Numenor. She gets locked up for a few episodes because she's a total bitch to the queen, just like she's a total bitch to everybody.
Yeah.
And basically says like, oh, you're all gonna fucking die. And then the queen's like, well, we're gonna lock you up then. And then she's like, well, but you're very strong. Here, I'll give you some soldiers and you can go fight the orcs down south. And then she sends like 12 soldiers with the queen herself, and they go and do a big battle, and a volcano erupts at the end to make Mount Doom, or to make Mordor, because Mount Doom erupts because of a crazy mechanical system that was left and funneled water after they made miles of tunnels. It makes no fucking sense.
The only thing that I knew for sure about Rings of Power, like character-wise, that one of the characters, I think he's a king or something, is played by the same guy who played Abraham Lincoln in Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter.
The more you know, the better.
Well, there's the elf king, Gilgalad, who's like a chubby guy, even though he's supposed to be a big warrior king. And then, yeah, the main boss in Numenor, that might be him. He has a beard in this, so he might have somewhat disguised himself from. I know Abraham Lincoln had somewhat of a beard, but yeah, not sure. I have to look that up.
Anyway.
Although that movie also had Anthony Mackie in it, who ultimately became the argumentatively bigger star than the guy playing Lincoln, but
right. Yeah. From 8 Mile.
Is better because it started paying off those setups. Yeah, so let's keep going here.
And the crowd went mild. So what is wrong with it? Well, the second season continues to live off nostalgia for Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings trilogy. It certainly doesn't like to reference the ass Hobbit movies. No, it sticks to the good stuff, because there's nothing like reminding an audience of something better than what they're watching. It's a shit rewrite of Tolkien's work with what feels like.
Yeah, it's really lazy references too. It's like the character who is so obviously Gandalf, and yet they teased it for 2 seasons who he was. Oh, it could be Sauron or it could be Gandalf, guys. We don't know. Who knows? I'm pretty sure he's not Sauron. That was one of the best bits of writing at the end of season 1, was him realizing that he was good and then verbalizing, you're not his little evil servants are like, you're not Sauron, because they thought he was too. And he goes, no, I'm good, and slams his staff down. And I thought, that's a funny name.
Yeah.
I'm good. Nice to meet you.
I'm dead.
Like 8,000 characters who are either swapped out for versions ordered from Temu and follow the same essential plot threads from The Lord of the Rings, or they are made up for the show and have absolute...
Right. They're made up for the show. Okay, isn't this the crowd? I don't know the movie Cynic's content very well, but the people he reminds me of, Critical Drinker, Mahler, Nerdrotic, etc., their whole argument, their implicit argument, sometimes stated explicitly, is that storytelling is objective in the sense that it's based on a universal and ancient template that stretches across all of time and all culture and all races and so forth, that there are objective rules for storytelling, and people who violate these rules are engaged in an agenda, or I don't know, so trying to force their personal politics into a...
No. Their whole argument, and Mahler is the main one that does this, they say that there are objective elements to story, that you can't just brush everything off as, well, I don't know, some people, like this guy just did, well, some people liked it, some people didn't, some people were meh. It's like, oh wow, that really makes for a great conversation. I guess we're done here. Everybody just has their personal opinion, and we can't talk about any of the objective elements at all.
Yeah.
Objective elements make you form your subjective ones.
Also, Solar has another note here. So when he complains about people criticizing a medium not sticking to the source material, Tolkien's work is so intrinsic and tightly woven together, changing one thing risks making the rest fall apart. Shortly after, he says Rings of Power does remain faithful to its source material, which is false. Just off the top of my head, the Silmarillion never mentions Galadriel having a story with Sauron other than obtaining one of the 3 rings made for elves. The Akalabeth is mainly focused on the rise and fall of Numenor, Sauron's involvement in it, as well as the latter's schemes to control the free peoples of Middle-earth through the forging of the rings.
Yep.
So, yeah.
And speaking of Galadriel, they make her fucking stupid in this show. They think they're empowering her with girl boss energy, but in reality, Galadriel, whenever Sauron showed up, she was one of the most suspicious ones of him and was not deceived by him, even though he was Sauron the Deceiver. So instead,
Solar has some stuff on that later in the video. We'll get to that.
Okay.
Show or something like that. So why would such a person who believes such a thing be complaining that this show is following the storytelling template of its source material? You can't have it both ways.
Absolutely nothing to do with the trilogy at all, making it a billion-dollar fan fiction. Need a Hobbit?
Incorrect. It has a lot to do with
Incorrect. Incorrect.
Incorrect.
Actually.
Yeah.
He definitely screams that kind of energy.
Yeah.
I was waiting for him to straighten his glasses there. Like an anime character, let the gleam.
Wait, let's back up. He said something about hobbits?
Well, they can't use those, so how about a Harfoot? Need Gandalf?
Yes, they can.
They can.
Use
There's a reason they haven't. They haven't gotten the rights to those. Because the hobbits show up in like the Second Age, I believe.
Solar has notes on that in a little bit. Just keep letting him play in it.
Okay.
Hobbits. They have the adaptation rights to The Lord of the Rings and its appendices, which means the word hobbit is free use. They chose not to use it. And they chose not to use it for a very good reason. The reason is this. The story in the Rings of Power is taking place in the early Second Age, before the existence of nations like Rohan and Gondor. Now, in universe, the word hobbit is derived from the language of Rohan.
All right, hold on.
Rohanese.
Evan, pause right there. All right, oh, actually, hang on. Let him play. Go for 8 more seconds.
Or in Tolkien's notes, he says it's derived from a Proto-Rohirrim language. In other words, a language that was the precursor.
Okay, stop right there. This is Morris Solar's notes. He brings up the language of Rohan. His statements are inaccurate. He mentions that the language of the Rohirrim is descendant from the Numenorian language. This is false. The Rohanese tongue descends from the tongues of Northmen who settled in the Mark, which later adopted Westron, the language that is actually descended from Numenorian, as a lingua franca, which was the case for all of Middle-earth. But it is true that at the time, the hobbits didn't exist yet as a nation, and the word hobbit is indeed a loan word from Rohanese. The ancestors of the hobbits were originally 3 tribes: the Harfoots, the Stores, and the Falahides. But the hobbits hadn't yet encountered other races, or big folk as they call them. It wouldn't happen until the early years of the Third Age, long after Rings of Power. So there you go.
Well, he just said that they have the rights to Lord of the Rings and the appendices. I can tell you 100% that's not true. And there's a reason that they only are covering the Harfoots, and I doubt that they ever will unless they get some other rights or something.
John, I'm with you. I can guarantee you that if they had the rights to use the word hobbit, they absolutely would, because everybody knows what the hell a hobbit is. I suspect that what the real reason is, and I blame Just Some Guy for putting this idea in my head, but Just Some Guy has the idea that because the Harfoots are in the text are described as being a little bit darker skinned than the rest of the other hobbits, then that basically allows them to have black Hobbit actors, basically.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Well, so now explain the Numenorians, who are an island nation, by the way, having such diversity as the LA airport.
Yeah. Moving on.
The language of Rohan, and the language of Rohan is descended from Numenorian. The Numenorians have not yet founded the colony of Rohan, which becomes the nation of Rohan, which develops the language of Rohanese. So the reason that no one in this show is using the word hobbit is because in universe the word hobbit does not exist yet. The language from which the word hobbit is derived does not exist yet because the nation that spoke that language does not exist yet. And this,
So if they had the rights to Lord of the Rings, they would have made a fucking Lord of the Rings show.
Yeah.
Obviously, they don't have the rights to that. Like, I can't even believe that he would try to assert that. They would just remake Lord of the Rings and do the early stuff in like a season. There's no way that they would pass that up. And Max owns that, so, or, whatever, WB.
Yep. Anyway.
One's gonna buy out the other to remake all of Lord of the Rings.
Yeah. Make Aragorn black like the card.
Yeah.
I keep forgetting they actually did that.
They did.
Yeah.
Example of the many, many ways that the Rings of Power engages with Tolkien's actual lore and Tolkien's actual themes, and these ways don't get noticed by clowns like the movie Cynic. Because
some toxic language.
Ooh, movie Cynic, can you come back from that?
They're either being dishonest.
I mean, we'll see, but he keeps pausing Movie Cynic's video just to go on these long tangents.
Yeah.
Got him.
About the legend of the Ring, or their only exposure to and understanding of The Lord of the Rings comes from the fact that they saw the Peter Jackson movies when they were 12 and thought that it had awesome battle scenes or something.
That was one of the big appeals of Lord of the Rings at the time.
Yeah.
Not just its early use of CGI, or at least the enhanced CGI at the time, but also its prolonged battle scenes.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's not a bad thing necessarily.
Like that. It's downstream of the phenomenon I've talked about many times in some of my other content about how so many critics of this show are beginning with the framing and themes of the Peter Jackson films and reading them backwards into the text of The Lord of the Rings, and then complaining when the show The Rings of Power is more faithful to the actual original themes and original framing of Tolkien than Peter Jackson's movies were. There's a reason that
it apes Jackson's movies. They're trying constantly to be like Jackson's movies. They're just a cheap copy of it. They have Gandalf doing the same fucking lines. They have Galadriel giving the same monologues. They just do it in the, well, as Movie Cynic said, it's the Temu version. It's the 6 IQ version. You can't act like they're more faithful when they're blatantly trying to rip those off, just in a long-winded, cheap way.
Tolkien, the son of J.R.R. Tolkien, hated Peter Jackson's movies, and why the Tolkien estate, generally speaking, has been unhappy with the Peter Jackson films since they existed. And it's because the Jackson films fundamentally changed the philosophical and religious themes. And
so you hate the Jackson films?
Throughout minute 10, he's speaking complete nonsense, according to Solar.
I mean, is he like legit saying that he just thinks those movies are shit as far as forget as far as adaptations, but he sounds like he just doesn't even like the Jackson films at all.
At least the Tolkien estate does. He's really saying like, oh, this is what the Tolkien estate says. Anyway.
From what I see on Google here, the Tolkien family, particularly Tolkien's son Christopher Tolkien, had a generally negative opinion on the Peter Jackson films, while some family members, like Christopher's son Simon Tolkien, were more open to the adaptations. Of course,
no, I knew that they didn't like it, yeah.
I mean, the big reason why they didn't like it is that they felt that the movies in themselves did not adequately represent Tolkien's work on a broader scale.
Yeah.
They were more actiony, from what I heard, than the family would have liked, because they did have like the big action set pieces and stuff, which were in the books. I mean, they were described, but I think they wanted like more of a quiet, contemplative kind of thing. So he kind of blockbustered them up a little bit, as far as the
I mean, I can
allocation of
understand it from
time.
that point of view. At the same time, if people are going to want to see a fantasy movie, they're going to want to see like a couple of, sword fights or cool magic scenes or these creatures popping out at you from that we can't really see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That we don't usually see in this span of life. I would just put it that way.
Yeah.
So I'm not aware of too much. I think it might have been Simon. One of the Tolkien's like kind of wanted to get into creative shit, and so they're somewhat involved with this show. So I'm pretty sure
It was
one of them
Simon.
is
It's Simon.
okay.
He's a failed author. That's why.
Ah, right. So he needed to ape off of it a little bit, and they had to wait for the son to die.
Yeah, Christopher to die. Yeah.
Right, because he sort of watched and was very protective of it. And then as soon as he died, they were basically like, all right, now we're 2 generations in. Now it's time to turn it to shit.
Yeah.
Yay!
Finally.
Finally, he's dead. The king is dead.
Now, I happen to think that Christopher Tolkien and the Tolkien estate are being too hard on Peter Jackson's movies. The Jackson movies are
So
Okay.
now they're being too hard.
You do like him. Okay. Then why are you bringing up this whole point?
Oh, man.
adaptations and are among my favorite films ever made. But it's important to understand that there is that fundamental difference between them. And The Rings of Power is engaging with and expressing in many, many ways Tolkien's original framing of the story and Tolkien's original.
It's a different story, first of all. They're not telling Lord of the Rings, so of course it's going to be a different framing and a different story. And second of all, if they really wanted to be faithful to it, they've condensed the timeline so much that it's like a completely different story. Like there were multiple generations of kings in between all these things, and they just have it be like, nope, it's just this queen. She's cool. She does all this. And it's like, I believe that she ruled at some point, but not during any of these events. Like she wasn't even involved in this, or that. That certainly wasn't how Mount Doom was created as described. I mean, he didn't describe it in detail. So that's what I mentioned with if they have wiggle room, then they'll bastardize it.
Spiritual and philosophical themes. And the problem is that folks like the movie Cynic only engage with Lord of the Rings content at the level of cinema, so they probably don't even understand the original text of the Lord of the Rings. I suspect many of them have never actually read it and are just getting their information from like wikis or other content creators. But I digress.
Wow, that's some projection. Holy shit. Nerdrotic knows it so much better than these fucking wiki warriors that fight for Rings of Power. I would put Nerdrotic against Simon Tolkien in Lord of the Rings knowledge any day.
I just want to point out is that we're almost like 1/3 or almost past 1/3 through this whole video, and this guy's only played over barely a minute of a movie Cynic's video.
I know, I keep looking at his YouTube bar, like the one that's playing in his video, and I keep thinking, oh wow, we're only that far into the video, and then I'm like, oh wait, no, we're 11 minutes in.
Anyway.
1 minute into the movie Cynic's video here, and I'm already angry. So let's keep going and see if he improves his argument.
Very intimidating.
He's getting triggered.
Hashtag big
Well,
bad.
he shouldn't exist yet either, so how about the guy they call
All right, okay. Here we go again. Yes, Gandalf did exist, and in the history of Middle-earth, you will find some notations and suggestions by Tolkien that he did visit the many lands of Middle-earth before the Third Age, when the Istari are traditionally held to have first arrived in Middle-earth, right? So Gandalf did not always go by the name Gandalf, but that character existed basically since the beginning of the world. He's more or less an angel.
Oh yeah, he came to visit, like whenever he came down in a meteor in this show and had amnesia for a season, or I'm sorry, 2 seasons, and then
Yeah.
figured out his own name whenever they started calling him Thanks Grand Elf, because they thought he was tall for an elf. And he's like, whoa, Grand Elf.
Yeah.
Yes, that's an
That's
actual scene that happened in the show.
I can believe that.
I know it
That's
sounds like I'm just being a cynic or making things up, but yep. And then, yeah, we can't get the complicated philosophy of literally, why does a ship float? Because it looks to the sky and a stone sinks, for it does not. Like, they try the poetic language, they try to be like Tolkien, but they're fucking puddle deep with what they're saying, or it just doesn't make any sense at all. Whenever they're like, we shall sweep our enemies as salt is swept from a table. I'm like, what? Are you spilling salt on the table and sweeping it away with your hand? What are you talking about?
No, no, I guarantee what they do is that they put regular sentences into ChatGPT, and then they tell ChatGPT to make this all Tolkien-esque and
Yeah.
wax poetic, and then
Poetic
ChatGPT
prose.
straight up just barfs all these weird half-baked metaphors, and they're like, "Oh, this sounds Tolkien-esque."
Yeah.
They have a dart. They have a dartboard in the office. They're just like, you are going to be action, lichen, noun. Aha, there, we made another metaphor, guys.
Great Mad
It's like how
Libs.
South Park claimed how Family
The
Guy
manatee
The
bit. Yeah.
Family Guy, yeah.
Let's see, salt, table, ocean.
Boat, rock. There we go. We got it, folks.
And I'm sorry that I'm not remembering more examples, but it's literally 2 seasons of that sort of shit where everybody has to squeeze a fucking metaphor into every conversation that they have. And it's like when Tolkien did this, it would usually be like the more highfalutin, like Frodo wasn't running around making metaphors all the time because
No.
hobbits are simple folk and all that, you know? He
No.
makes everybody act they all speak the same and it just sounds like 2 jackasses arguing. Where you're like, I just hope you all die by the end of this. Like the Numenorians are arguing with the elves, and you're like, you both suck. Please, a volcano kill all of you.
Yes.
Come on, Mount Doom, blow up already.
Yeah. Go Sauron. I got a little flag and a #1 foam finger. Sauron, Sauron.
Let's go, Sauron.
I want you to fuck Galadriel because she wants that real bad in season 1, and then after that, you can kill everybody.
Yeah. Anyway.
Run it all down.
He was there at the creation of the world. So yes, Gandalf does exist at this time, and there are suggestions in Tolkien's own work that he did visit other lands.
Suggestions, and yet you're saying very affirmatively that he did exist and he did all this stuff. And that this is very faithful because Tolkien made some suggestions possibly in this Silmarillion about Gandalf maybe visiting before, which of course means that he was directly involved in fighting Saruman, who is apparently already evil. There's an evil sorcerer in the same lands near where Saruman ended up setting up. So I assume that it's supposed to be him, and he looks like him. In the original Peter Jackson movies, which they constantly copy visuals off of because they can't copy outright.
I would always assume that while Tolkien was writing the history of Middle-earth and all the centuries, he always left stuff up to interpretation. Because in our real-world history, we don't have everything down-packed. At most, we only have like 47% of things recorded, confirmed to have happened. So that still leaves a lot of stuff to be open to interpretation or speculative works, and Tolkien was almost trying to replicate that.
Yeah.
I try to get the idea that what we know is confirmed to have happened, but at the same time, there's still a lot of stuff that could have happened that is still unwritten to the citizens of Middle-earth.
Well, he was very religious, so I think he wrote a lot of that super history as like a religious text to be written, because it's kind of like there's a lot of history stuff woven into various religions because they'll recount the same event, like the Great Flood and everything. And so he probably made it like vague, kind of like that, where he's like, oh, everybody knows that something like this happened, but, you know, maybe we'll interpret it different ways. Yeah.
Yep. Anyway.
Before the Third Age.
Shit you not, a grand elf. Need a story? Well, the hobbits were friends with...
Jeez. I cannot believe how bad this is. Okay, the name Gandalf translates to elf with a stick. That's what it means. So don't come at me complaining about the grand elf thing. Tolkien just made goofy decisions sometimes.
Good God.
That was not Tolkien. They made up that scene. We're making fun of the scene where they start walking past him and calling him Grand Elf. And that wasn't even why they called him Grand Elf. They weren't referencing the stick. They said he was big. And that's why they call him Grand Elf.
Yep.
He's the grandest of elves.
Yeah. So your show disagrees with your explanation. So I don't know. You two can fight it out.
Yep.
He's the elf with the biggest stick of them all.
Hello, Schlong Elf.
Maybe
no,
that's why
I don't think that's my name.
maybe that's why Bob wants them to come at him.
Oh God.
I'm sorry, just the way it all kind of flows together.
He does have hard wood in that stick, in that staff.
Giggity goo. Anyway.
Giggity.
He was writing a fantasy story originally intended for children, right? So it should not.
The Hobbit was. I don't know about Lord of the Rings as much.
No,
it's still had childlike elements.
No, certainly not. Because by Lord of the Rings, it's when he was taking it much more seriously. He's like, "Hey, I can craft like a legit fucking narrative out of this. This is more than just my kids' bedtime story. This is legit a full-on fucking fantasy world I have on my hands right here." That's basically it. Yeah.
He's also working in the classic, well, it's for kids, so it's fine to have a stupid reason for things. It's no. There are kids who got into the freaking appendices.
Like the entire motto for the MCU now.
Yeah.
Also, he's wrong when he's wrong on Gandalf's origin name, but for Gandalf and the dwarves in The Hobbit, he took names from Voluspa 10. You get and then
Gesundheit.
Yeah, he took it from that, and then Solar sent me a link to the publiclibrary.uk, a PDF on there, and then he quotes it with a bunch of names that I can't pronounce, so I'm not gonna bother. Anyway, moving on.
Who did something equally goofy
with Gandalf, so why not pair the Harfoots with Grand Elf? Need dialogue? Why not gargle marbles and have an autist recall Frodo lines from memory?
I'm not a smart ass, you don't know. Fucking Shakespeare.
The dialogue might be the most cringe in television history. Even if She-Hulk or The Acolyte is worse overall, this show is a disgrace to its source material with its faux Tolkien speak. Almost like the
Hey, we were just talking about that points earlier, weren't we?
Yeah.
Thank you for pausing on Sydney.
Hell yeah,
boy. I mean, I gotta give the artists what they want, right?
Hell yeah, man, yeah. Although we might want to lower the camera just a little bit, just saying. Anyway.
How the hell would you know? It's obvious to me. We're 1.5 minutes into this video, and as I said, you either...
Who would have gone farther into it if you hadn't kept pausing in it between you dingus?
Yeah.
It's because he literally has to disagree with every point. Otherwise, the cynic will have won.
He has to disagree with everything. He has to disagree with every word, every punctuation mark, even literally everything.
I will give him credit where credit is due. He also paused on Sydney.
Yes.
He's like, nah, but I'm not being sexist about it like that cynic would.
And did not understand Tolkien's lore, or you are simply lying about it. Okay?
Okay. Does he think he's in the room? You don't have to ask okay.
I don't know what people expect. Do you want the characters in a Lord of the Rings show to talk like they're from modern day America, or do you want
Oh my God.
Oh, this is such a strong
It ain't binary, bro. They can talk more than two ways.
Oh my god, this is such a straw man point right here. No fucking cap.
I hate that. That's like whenever, and this is someone who I normally like, but Little Platoon recently, whenever people say they don't like Andor, he's like, oh, so you can go watch Mandalorian and Grogu. It's like, that doesn't mean that I'm going to watch that. Just because I don't like one thing doesn't mean I automatically like the other. Like, it's such a, I hate whenever people do the false binary. It's like, oh, if you don't like this, then you clearly want this.
False
Yeah.
equivalence. Yeah.
They're just pigeonholing. It's like,
Or no, dichotomy. There we go. Yeah. Anyway.
yeah, false dichotomy, right?
Moving on.
Kind of elevated pseudo-Shakespearean language like they do in Game of Thrones. What are you looking for here? This is just a double standard.
Metaphors that make sense and characters that speak differently depending on their background and standing and education and race and or species. I don't know if what you would count it as between hobbits and humans and stuff.
Just ensure that all of the characters don't talk the same. We want to give all these different races of characters the impression that they're their own unique culture, their own unique dialect and speaking style. So I can understand not wanting all the characters to talk the same, but at the same time, you got to give a little bit of flavor to it.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah. Well, and like their characterization seems to be, it always boils down to one phrase or ideology. Is pretty much the only difference between them. Like the Harfoots, it's nobody goes on trail and nobody goes along, and they really drill that one into you because they sing it for like 3 whole episodes as they're walking. That's the very complicated chant that defines their whole race. And so they have that, and there's the sea is always right, and then the elves don't really have one. But it's like that's pretty much how they try to say like, oh look, we're doing characterization, we're doing different races. But then they all, even though the Harfoots like speak with I think it's Irish accents. I'm trying to remember now. Also, I'm American, so I'm terrible at differentiating those accents.
It's Irish. It's Irish because I remember that one fucking newspaper saying they sound like Irish Neanderthals or something like that.
Yeah, so that's how they try and make them appear like folksy, and that's pretty much where it ends because they still speak in the poetic prose. They're still like, they just do it in a stupid accent where they're like, well, you know, the leaf falls and it withers and dies, but the one that stays on the tree remains strong. It's like, yes, thank you. Okay, moving on. I just made that up, but that's totally a line that would be in the show.
Yeah.
You would give a pass. I suspect Movie Cynic here would give a pass to this kind of thing in a show that he liked, or that a show that he and his algorithm chasing buddies have decided they're going to like.
And yet you're the one bringing up the more popular channel.
Yep.
I use his name as clout.
Yeah.
Yep.
I love how everything's assumed to be disingenuous. Like they'll think that if they see this, they'll think that Backseat like honestly loves Rings of Power, even though he's never seen it. And then they'll think he loves Disney Star Wars. That he's just they're always dishonest. Wow. They couldn't possibly just legitimately not like something.
Backseater, do you like Disney Plus?
No, I've never been. I hate it so much. I actually got Mom Cedar to fucking unsubscribe from it. Yes, no fucking joke.
He's like, Mom, I'm going to disown you.
I'm throwing you out of your own house if you don't unsubscribe.
I'm putting you in the home. I'm only 45. I don't care. When you're the Happy Gilmore, you're going to be making wallets.
Oh, God.
Oh, Lord.
Oh, anyway, moving on.
Like, say, House of the Dragon. The language there is doing the same thing, and it's written in the same tone as Rings of Power.
I appreciate Sydney laughing at him this whole time. I knew she was based. It's like, what a fucking nerd.
Anyway.
Decided for arbitrary algorithm reasons that Rings of Power has to suck and House of the Dragon has to be good. You have to take a side. So you're going to operate with a double standard. Again, living up to your
Wait,
name.
which one's the
is-
algorithm? Being positive or being negative? Because you just mentioned that they have different opinions on different shows, almost like they're basing it on the quality of the show. And it's actually not for an algorithm. Why did the algorithm choose House of the Dragon to be good? Is it maybe because it's actually fucking good, especially in season 1? Season 2 faltered a little bit. That's okay.
Yeah.
Almost like that destroys your
Dragon.
argument and you're trying to brush it off.
And the funny thing about House of the Dragon, and correct me if I'm wrong, and even though they had one of those, like a black lead character, and people are like, is it really appropriate for the setting? The show actually does explain it, and it actually does it in a pretty riveting way.
Yeah, all the people in the same family or from the same descendants are black, which is how it works like in the real world.
Weren't all those people race swept in the fucking show though?
I think they were. Like, I don't think it's really mentioned maybe in the books. I haven't read that game or that Song of Ice and Fire book. I've only read the main series, so I'd have to defer to someone who knows the series better. But
Yeah. Anyway.
I think they did. I think they race up only one character, but they already came with an explanation on why is that.
yeah, because they're all like the Targaryens. They all came from like the same kind of set of islands, but I think there was one island that was maybe further south or something, and that's where the black characters apparently come from. Because they were all kind of seafaring for a while, so they came from different places.
I'm from the South. Anyway.
Yeah. I love how we're almost halfway through the guy's video, and he's still barely.
He's not even 10%. He's not even a tenth of the way through.
He's going to be paused on Sydney for approximately 38 seconds, I bet.
Yeah.
Good thing his waist is below camera.
Yeah.
I mean, we're not complaining, though. We're not complaining, though.
I'm not complaining, though.
Which means you're going to approach everything in bad faith. Nothing we're seeing this guy...
Including the show that you liked? I don't understand this. You approached House of the Dragon in bad faith. You knew you were going to like it because the algorithm told you to. What?
Taken in good faith. It's all lies done for algorithmic engagement. We're 1.5 minutes.
I've seen through the lies of the grifters.
Also, Agmo.
To see
Agmo
through
riff.
your disguise,
You
why
using
don't you
words.
open your eyes? Anyway.
I was making an Anakin Skywalker reference, but yes.
Oh.
I see through the lies of the Jedi. I see through the lies of the grifters. That's what this guy's doing right now.
Yeah, legit, yeah.
Video. I don't think I'm going to make it to the end.
But I would guess not, considering the length of your video and the length of
Yeah.
You better do some catching up to do, man.
You know, for someone who
Nice.
probably hates EFAP, this dude's doing EFAP style on this. He's spent like 10 minutes on 1 minute.
Yes.
Bad, man.
The show absolutely hates the creator of the sandbox the writers are playing in. The dialogue
All right, see, there we go. More. Oh my gosh.
Oh my gosh.
And it's official. We are almost halfway through his video.
Oh my god.
And look, a
Oh my
minute 30.
Oh my god, bruh, you're one to talk. Okay, so officially, bro, you're one to talk, bro. You're officially not one to talk about people making like long ass content now. No, he could easily keep this up for like 8 more hours. So no, I don't buy this.
Again,
Ugh.
the claim that this show, the creators of the Rings of Power, hate Tolkien cannot be substantiated. And maybe I'll go through and I'll put in some links to videos and interviews and stuff demonstrating that the creators of this show know more about Tolkien's lore than any.
I will give us this moment to get our audible scuffs in.
Ha!
Anyone who is complaining about the show on YouTube, or anyone who's defending the show on YouTube, including me, right? These guys know the lore backwards and forwards. They understand Tolkien's fundamental philosophy better than the movie Cynic or Mahler or Critical Drinker or
And
Roddick.
yet you got some facts wrong, as proven by Solar.
This dude does not know shit about Nerdrotic if he's
No.
saying this. Like, he's the one
No.
that I know specifically is heavily into this shit.
Yes.
I also do want to say at one point that while Amazon was developing the show and they're inviting all of these showrunners, at one point they were taking pretty much anyone that had some form of like notoriety on them. They even went to the Game of Thrones guys, D&D.
Hmm.
I'm pretty sure those guys have questionable Tolkien knowledge at best.
Yeah.
They probably brought in a lot of experts because they had to know what to avoid for legal reasons.
Yeah.
They were like, "Are we doing this right?" Yes. Oh shit, we have to change it then because we're copyright infringing on the Silmarillion. Fuck.
Uh-oh. SpaghettiOs. Anyway.
We don't want to get sued for billions.
Yeah, we got to mess it
Even
up.
though if we end up losing like one, it probably wouldn't affect our net worth going forward.
Or Disparu, or Shadiversity, or any of the other Packlet.
Disparate.
Okay?
The Packlet.
I have videos on my channel where I explain the ways that the Rings of Power is engaging with Tolkien's spiritual and religious themes far better than the Jackson movies did, or far more deeply than the Jackson movies did, I should say. I don't think Rings of Power is better than the Jackson movies or vice versa. I like them equally, but they are doing
What? So, I'm sorry. I know you're big. I know we get some disagreement with Star Wars fans, but in my opinion, the greatest fucking movie trilogy of all time, and you're saying Rings of Power is equal to it. Oh no, it's not. Like, he just tried to brush over that real quick. He acts like that's a common opinion or something.
It's pretty weird considering he spent the last 16 minutes and 21 seconds essentially devaluing the Peter Jackson movies in order to elevate Rings of Power.
Oh yeah, he's doing the classic thing where he shits on it, or like alludes to it not being good, and then goes, "Oh, but I love it. I get it. You don't want to burn any bridges or sound too ridiculous, but you just did sound ridiculous, making them the same even. But yeah, you could say a show is great, and it's still not going to be as good as the Lord of the Rings movies. Like.
things. And one of the things Rings of Power is doing differently is that it is engaging with Tolkien's genuine religious beliefs in a way that the Jackson films did not. So we're 1 minute 35 seconds into this, and it's just been nonstop nonsense.
Redeemable. It's hard to say the
Whoa, what
cast
happened?
is awful. I mean, they're definitely awful in this show, but I don't know if they're adding calories to this mukbang because they hired essential unknowns for the majority of the roles. The acting in this
Okay, again, what do you want?
Oh man.
If you hire
It just went from Rings of Power to Jerry Springer real quickly.
Yes.
essentially like all like famous people, that's going to drive the budget of the show.
Not all. You could have one or two for maybe some of the more high profile roles, or for the more, get a dude with some gravitas to play some of the kings or something, instead of Gilgalad being a pudgy nothing. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, it does make sense, really. If you want to build a franchise, especially with characters on the younger side, then yeah, you're going to want to cast some unknowns, get people to identify with them a little bit. And if you want to roll for someone who's a little more authoritarian, then yeah, you can go for a notable name actor.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, it's a production 101.
TV shows and TV series is traditionally a way that up-and-coming actors break into the mainstream. It's how they become famous. It's how they get well-known. It's how they get more work. Hiring lesser-known actors is a time-honored, a tried-and-true television practice. How many people in the cast of Game of Thrones were incredibly famous when that started?
Peter Dinklage,
Yeah.
John Bean.
yeah.
Yep.
Even Wheel of Time splurged for Rosamund Pike, dude. Like,
Yeah.
they're spending $1 billion. They can afford a good actor or two, or a well-known actor.
Oh, I even say Charles Dance was pretty notable before he
Yeah.
went to Game of Thrones.
Mm-hmm.
Arguably Sean Bean. Not many other people. I mean, go to any TV show, look at the first season, and see how many of those people were famous at the time. What do you want, bro?
Show absolutely sucks because the actors, good as they may be, have an idiotic script they have to work with. The characters are absolute dumbasses whose motivations change at the whim of the plot. Adar hates the elves and wants them dead, until he doesn't and wants peace. Celebrimborg.
Okay.
It's
Bill O'Reilly.
okay. Yeah.
See that right there. That's a great example of how dishonest these people are. He gave a bullet point description of Adar's character arc without filling in the connective tissue. The story of Adar is the story of salvation by grace. Right? He's the leader of the orcs. He chose the path of evil, and through his interactions with Galadriel, he comes into contact with Nenya, the ring of adamant that she has been wearing, and he wears it, and it heals him, and he has a change of heart.
Okay, hold on. Hold on right here. So this is another point Solar filled us in on. So the orcs are supposed to be the faithful servants of the Dark Lord by nature ever since the First Age. Tolkien's writings suggest that the orcs can be redeemed, but in the Dagor Dagorath, the apocalypse in Tolkien's world, far greater than even Galadriel herself. Not to mention the ring she wears, Nenya is more about concealment and protection, not so much about grace. Also, grace alone doesn't make a dark corruption get redeemed. The Silmarils were created with the light of the two trees of Valinor, which predated the sun and the moon and were brighter and more graceful, and dark corruption burns when touching it. For example, Morgoth once wore them in his crown, but they constantly burned at his scalp. The fierce Karkaroth devoured one, and it burned its stomach, bringing it to madness, which led to a rampage. So there you go.
Okay. Hey,
No action of his own. He was saved.
Just a heads up here, Backseater. I probably have to split pretty soon here because I'm actually I thought it was another hour yet because that's what Purist had told me that we were going to start at 9:30 Central Time, not 9:30 Eastern Time. But I think they've already started streaming, so I got to go jump over on Melvin's.
All right.
So,
all right.
I have to split here, but I had fun shitting on this for the hour that we got.
All right. See you, John.
All right.
See
Be
ya.
easy.
Moving on.
Saved by grace. And in return, or as a result of that, he decides to extend the hand, the olive branch, if you will, to Galadriel. And Galadriel learns her moral lesson for season 2. Adar was basically the mirror, the dark mirror of Galadriel for this whole thing. And to describe it in this bullet point fashion dismissively is a great demonstration of how dishonest these people are. Because
no, he didn't go into painstaking depth about it. Oh no, anyway.
I mean, as long as he hasn't been trying to do that for the past 19 minutes.
Yeah.
It shows that they're not really engaging with the text of the show or any of its deeper themes. They're looking at this like an engineering project. If it follows a certain blueprint, then it's good. If it doesn't follow the blueprint, then it's bad. And there's no room for flair or nuance or anything like that.
Basic storytelling, man.
Yes.
The hero's journey.
It literally is that basic, and it's flopping at the fucking basics. This is like crashing your bike while it still has fucking training wheels on it. Come on.
What a sight that'd be.
This guy just fundamentally doesn't understand how television or cinema work. He doesn't understand that.
He doesn't need to be to know when a story is shit. Oh my god, is this like the same? It's like, oh, you've never made a movie before, so you have no right to criticize bad movies. It's like, well, I guess like fucking like 99% of the viewing audience don't matter then. Oh my god, that's such a stupid argument. No cap. Anyway.
Although I will say I have made a short film before, and I
Uh-huh.
have worked on PBS productions, so I do have a say about that.
Yeah. Anyway.
Dialogue is not the only thing telling the story here. It's also the visuals. It's also the music. It's the costuming. It's the pacing. Everything is a narrative element. And if you cannot incorporate all of those elements into your analysis and focus only on dialogue and only on character actions, you're just not ever going to truly understand any piece of visual media.
What if he doesn't care? What if he doesn't care about that stuff though? Is he under obligation to?
Say, I'm a bit of a stickler when it comes to dialogue myself, and I am a bit of a stickler when it comes to visual motifs. They do have like hidden meanings, and if you make your dialogue and your visuals snappy and punchy enough, it does leave a lasting impression on viewers. And while I will give Rings of Power credit for trying to get all that down packed, it still has some what's the word I'm looking for? It doesn't always hit the mark. Especially if you compare it to the Jackson movies, which clearly, as we say before, Rings of Power is trying to replicate while not. Like, a little bit of replication, but also trying not to, because, copyright infringement.
Yeah.
Tricked by dad joke level cliches. Not Gandalf, who's revealed as Gandalf through the bullshit mystery box style storytelling popularized by the show Lost, is the equivalent reaction to rat poison. As in, no shit, just kill me. This guy's entire story arc this season is walking around utterly fucking bewildered going, ah, and he finds a stick like he's in Harry Potter looking for a wand compelling. Let's stretch that through an entire season. But fear not, they have 20,000 other characters to divert off to and bore you with. This show has way too many stories happening all at once, and it would be different if they didn't all suck shit. Now let's get into the episode breakdown of this part of the compilation series, my personal favorite thing to do.
So we're going to skip the ad and move up to his take on episode 1, and I don't think I'm going to get much farther than this.
So by the how much time we got left on his video, I say he doesn't get very far.
No, we don't know.
This is real. It's just okay. Let's give him a shot. Let's see what he says.
We start with a 3+ minute recap of season 1, just in case you forget how ass it was.
Your people have no king, for you are him.
He is him.
He is him.
Real season starts as a flashback, right before Sauron meets Galadriel in the middle of the ocean. You remember that bullshit, right? Well, Sauron's hanging out just chilling with the orcs, looking like the guy Ed209 killed in RoboCop. Seriously, look. Since this show is not Lord of the Rings by consensus, he is therefore not Sauron. So please indulge me with some nicknames as we proceed through this fisting affair.
Oh, that's the Abraham Lincoln guy.
Oh,
Sauron.
yeah, it is,
So
yeah.
please indulge me with some nicknames as we proceed through this fisting.
This guy.
Yeah.
Just without the beard or the axe. Or Anthony Mackie.
Or anything awesome, yeah.
I think Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter was the first R-rated movie I ever saw in theaters.
Oh, damn.
Wait, was it R-rated? Hold on. I'll check on that later.
Affair.
That's at least
So
gotta be like
Saras is giving a speech trying to get the orcs on his side. He does this by telling them everyone thinks they're pieces of shit, from elves to dwarves to humans. And to prove this, he stabs one to death. See? He thinks you're a piece of shit too, but he's a benevolent prick. Head orc turd Adar goes to crown him and he's like, "Gotcha, bitch!" and gives him the old right there Fred. Soras is like, "No one makes me bleed my own blood." And Prometheus goos himself all over the place. Yes, he turns into Venom for a second and escapes via rat before stumbling upon a group of travelers he'll wind up in the ocean
What makes
with.
a good
He
rat?
I don't know. What does make good rats?
joins them after hearing some faux Tolkien dialogue about how to be good, and wham! We get to see how.
Okay, no, that wasn't faux Tolkien dialogue. That was expressing one of Tolkien's religious themes. Evil and good are choices that we make. They're not inherent to anyone. Nothing
Or maybe, just maybe, he's trying to be funny.
Yes.
is evil in the beginning, as Elrond says in the book version of the Fellowship of the Ring. Not even Sauron was so. And by the way, nothing is evil in the beginning was the first line of dialogue or narration that we ever hear in this show. So again, this is just an example of someone cynically
He lives to his name.
going through the show, making bullet points of dialogue, and not making any effort at understanding what the story is trying to say, or explore excuse me, or exploring the ways that it engages with the themes of the source material.
The themes.
It's all about the
The
themes.
themes.
The themes. You gotta pay attention to the themes, or you're
Yes.
stupid.
It's like here's your fucking diploma for media literacy. There you go. Oh my
You
god.
should hang it nice in the background.
Nice in the background.
No.
Maybe cover up those bare ass walls of yours.
Or that room down
That
there.
red
Is
room.
that his washroom?
I don't know what that is. I don't care either.
How Sauron ended up meeting Galadriel in the middle of the fucking ocean. Thank God we know. Now it's not coincidental stupidity. The story
It wasn't coincidental stupidity the first time either, okay? It was divine providence. This is established in the text of the show. I'll play a clip, I'll edit in the clip of Galadriel expressing this very idea. She isn't the only one, but in her case, in the case of her and Halbrand, she is the one who expressed the idea.
Ours was no chance meeting. Not
What
fate,
the fuck did
nor
you do with the
destiny.
footage, bro? Did you,
No, any of
what
them.
is this
He
Instagram?
corrupted it.
What is this Instagram filter bullshit?
It almost feels like an analog horror.
Words may not
Yes.
to speak of the forces they lack the conviction to name.
In the early 1990s,
Yeah.
this clip resurfaced.
Oh,
It's
no.
quite terrifying.
Yes, viewer discretion is advised.
Corrupted Galadriel. Analog horror.
Ours was the work of something greater. You must see it.
Multiple characters throughout season 1 and season 2 express the idea that divine providence is at work, that God is the ultimate mover of everything good that is happening in the show.
In other
that
words,
God
Deus Ex
has.
Machinas. That's
Yeah, no,
literally
I
what it
get-
sounds like what he's saying here. It's like he's just saying like, oh, just accept the Deus Ex Machinas, bro. It's divine providence.
Plan, and events are unfolding as he laid it out. That's straight from Tolkien, baby.
finally gets going in this hour-long slog when we meet back up with Guy Ladriel. Let's dive into this banger dialogue, shall we?
Okay, we're getting the Guy Ladriel thing. I think I'm done with this. I don't want to turn this into like a 3-hour piece of.
Triggered. He got, like literally,
Yeah.
he's getting triggered off of that shit. Yeah. Anyway.
I mean, come on. At least give Cynic a chance to explain himself.
I mean, yeah.
I want to hear.
Aren't you the side all about giving people chances here, man?
Of content, okay? Guy Ladriel, I think, is one of the dumbest insults that the Packleds came up with for this show, because I think that the Guy Ladriel name, more than anything else they say, betrays how badly they understand Tolkien, right? Tolkien himself essentially said she was Guy Ladriel.
Okay, hold on.
Her mother name
Hold on. Alright, let him keep going on here. Let him keep going.
is Nerwin, which means man maiden, and she was given that name because she was tall and strong and the equal of the greatest.
You know, it's funny. They go with the whole guy Galadriel, and he's getting all mad about it. But I just want to point out the actress playing Galadriel is only like 5'4", so not really that tall. And
She's literally shorter than a manlet. Ugh.
Athletes
I mean, fucking
and
Christ, I think
lore
my mom
masters
is taller than that. Fucking Christ.
probably.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know mom's theater, but
She's like, well, I'm 5'10", and she's like right up to my chin. So, yeah.
maybe like 5'7".
Yeah, she's like that tall. Yeah.
of the Eldar. And in Tolkien's work, the lore masters are great warriors. Galadriel was their equal. Nerwin was her name, her mother name, which means man maiden. In Tolkien's letters, he describes her as having an Amazon disposition. She went with Celeborn in the end of The Return of the King.
Alright, let him go for 20 more seconds. I want to get to the point here. Keep going.
Okay.
To Dol Guldur and tore down the walls and laid bare the pits.
The pits.
Right? So when you say that Galadriel, and when you derisively and refer to Galadriel in Rings of Power as Guy Ladriel, and you think you are insulting her,
4 more seconds.
you think you're insulting the intelligence of the showrunners, you're just displaying that you don't know anything about Tolkien.
Alright, so,
and the showrunners.
so final point from Solar here. While his argument is based on a lore factual point, that doesn't mean she's gonna be a girl boss. Nothing about Galadriel's personality indicates going to battle and being a girl boss to anyone. Her character is more serene, graceful, and calm, which in turn inspires respect. I haven't read the Unfinished Tales yet, but nowhere while reading everything else was it ever hinted that Galadriel will be some sort of warrior. So there you go.
So once more, Amazon trying to reinvent and imagine things, but they don't hit the mark.
No.
There's no better than you do. The depiction of Galadriel in the first season of Rings of Power is entirely consistent, 100%, all the way down with the way Tolkien wrote her backstory. The details have been changed for TV adaptation, but the spirit of the character,
changed too
the portrayal of her,
to the point where I'm sure it borders into unrecognizability.
Mm-hmm.
as a warrior is completely consistent with everything Tolkien wrote about her. And if you don't understand that, you don't understand Tolkien at all. This is just incredibly dishonest. And I'll say this again as well, as I've said multiple times. The grift here, the trick here that Movie Cynic is relying on is one that everyone else in this crowd relies on. They're operating under the assumption that you are supposed to like Galadriel in season 1 of The Rings of Power, and you are not. All of the things they bring up about her, she's annoying, she's bullheaded, she's obsessed, she's bossy, all of these things that they list out as character traits that represent the showrunners not knowing how to build a character. These things are features. You're supposed to notice these things. You're supposed to think these things are bad.
Okay,
well, you're supposed to wonder.
Okay, what... well, the point of having a character like that is that the audience is still supposed to like them in spite of that and want to watch them grow out of them. No, the point is that her flaws are too severe. No one gives a fuck about her and wants to see her fucking lose. So they failed in that regard. Ugh. I mean, let's compare.
You're allowed to have an unlikable character, as long as you allow the character to grow throughout the process of the show and give them some endearing qualities that would encourage the viewer to stand by the side of the main character in hopes of seeing them grow.
Yeah, like let's compare Galadriel with a Sentinel Comics character, like Benchmark, right? Because when Randall Butler got started out with like when he started out, he was like this big dude's like, oh, I'm a superstar athlete, I'm pretty smart, I want to be a superhero. Oh, what's that? Revel Corp is offering cybernetic upgrades because they want a superhero. Hell yeah, I'll sign up for that. So he signed up for it, got turned into a cyborg, and he was a good superhero for what it was worth, but he had one big ass issue. He only cared about the fame, the money, the glory. That was it. He really did not give a shit about being a legit superhero. He was in it for the wrong fucking reasons, right? He's like Booster Gold in that regard. But then eventually, when Oblivion hits, and that's really the point where Benchmark is like, I need to be a fucking hero. I need to step up and join all the real heroes and fighting and pushing him back and ending his menace for good, because this is bigger than just like how much money I have in my bank account. This is all of reality on the line here. And he matured past that ever since. And and even in spite of his arrogance, his fame mongering and all that, people were still on his side because he was still good at what he did. And the narrative never presented these, and there's another thing, the narrative constantly tries to put her in the fucking right, despite like the fact that she's so fucking arrogant about it. No one likes an arrogant character, and you really need to like be fucking delicate with that shit. But I digress. Anyway.
Yeah, I think you just about hit the nail on the head there.
Yes.
What in the hell happened to her? Where is the Galadriel we know from the Third Age? How does this woman, who's so clearly broken and flawed and misdirected, how does she become the Lady of Light thousands of years later? You're not supposed to like her. You're supposed to wonder what the hell is wrong with her.
Well, no one wants to grow to like her anyway, so you've screwed that up.
If you follow her character arc in season 1, you see immediately, if you understand how cinema works, which the
she doesn't have one in season 1.
Assuming people watched her through season 1 and bothered sticking on for season 2.
Yeah, like it's like just the way how he and John had described it. She only really starts developing in season 2. Who the hell is gonna sit through like, what is it, like 6, 8, 7, something like that? Who's gonna sit through that many episodes of this fucking petulant brat just being like an asshole to everyone and getting pissy when people don't like do as she says? No one's gonna want to do that. No.
Petulant childish behavior.
Yes. She's acting like one of Skyscraper's villains who's literally named Tantrum. Yes. At least
what a name.
At least Tantrum has the excuse that she's literally a little girl. What's her excuse?
She's tall. Maybe.
Yeah, 5'4". That's tall. Okay. Anyway, let's
movie
wrap this
Cynic
shit
does
up.
not clearly how that plays out.
I love how we're just about at the end of this guy's video. Yeah, he's barely through movie Cynic's review.
Yeah. No, and people say my videos are half-assed. This seems really half-assed.
End of season 2, she's another step along the path closer to the character we're more familiar with. It's not a coincidence that she begins season 1, wearing armor and being a warrior, and at the end of season 2, she has, visually anyway, laid down her sword and armor and begun wearing the white robes we more commonly associate with her in the Third Age. She is going to become the Galadriel we're familiar with. I can't go any further. I'm not going to subject myself to 1 hour or more of this garbage. So, yeah, just, The Rings of Power is a good show. And
no.
He wants to try to defend it so hard, but even he's at a loss of how to defend it any further.
Yes.
It engages with Tolkien's themes in a lot of ways. And people who don't understand that, people like the movie Cynic here and the rest of the pack lads who generate constant outrage and rage bait content about it, are just lying to you. It's important that you understand that. The movie Cynic here did us the favor of putting that into the brand of his channel. By calling himself the movie Cynic, we know that everything he says is going to be a lie. And it baffles me that anybody is fooled by this. So anyway.
Notice how his voice is kind of trembling.
Yeah, it's like, dude, he sounds like he's on the verge of tears on like every fucking sentence he says. It's like, it's crazy.
Anyway, if you like this kind of content, encourage me by giving me a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel.
No, do not subscribe.
Hit the bell for notifications so you can be told when I upload new videos. And stay tuned for cool things coming in the future. I'm working on a video essay about the TV show The Chosen and why it doesn't suck.
Oh, wow, that'll be
and
great.
I've got a
fucking stellar ass video this was. I'll watch that shit. Yeah.
You'd be surprised how popular The Chosen really is in movie theaters.
I've never seen it. I'm sorry, Evan.
It is like the highest grossing like franchise that's entirely crowdfunded.
Well, anyway.
Project.
Well, anyway, so we're just about at the end of this guy. Oh, actually, yeah, we can end it right here. So let's see. What do we got here? So Solar's closing argument. The whole thing smelled of soy, as some people say. Evan, closing arguments.
Yeah, Rings of Power left a lot to be desired, but hey, at least it gave us entertaining content of people ripping on it.
Lord of the Rings
and
content.
It makes people like Bob here very, very, very upset.
Yeah.
I also just want to point out once more that we made it through Bob's video here uninterrupted, whereas he can't even get through Movie Cynic's hour-long review. He only makes it like 5 minutes in before just quitting.
Yeah.
Well, if I could leave anyone with any sort of advice, just have fun with it. Go through the whole video. Just go through the hour. Make pauses in between. Just communicate.
Yeah. Well, anyway, if you guys enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, comment below if you video, subscribe if you want more videos like this, and I'll see you guys next time in the backseat. Take care!